Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the mind of Leonardo da Vinci today.
Oh, this is a good one.
I know, right? Such a fascinating figure.
Absolutely.
And we're going beyond the Mona Lisa, beyond the Last Supper.
Right.
We're talking about his actual writings.
His notes, his sketches.
Yeah, it's like we're peeking right into his thought process.
It's a privilege, really, to get this kind of access.
Totally agree. And one thing that really jumps out is this idea of the painter as a mirror to nature.
Oh, yeah, he was all about that.
Like art had to be grounded in actual experience, real observation.
He wasn't into just making things up, you know?
No. He had that famous quote, the painter strives and competes with nature.
But it's deeper than just, like, copying what you see.
That's what I was thinking. What did he really mean by that?
Well, for Leonardo, it was about going beyond the surface.
Okay.
It was about understanding the essence of nature.
Like the structure, the how and why things work.
Exactly. The structure of a leaf, the flow of water, how light hits things.
So it's about observation, but then taking it further.
Yeah. Expressing that essence through art.
And there's some cool examples of this in the source material.
Oh, tell me.
He was obsessed with veins in leaves.
Veins and leaves.
Yeah, how they branch out, the patterns.
Oh, I see where this is going.
And then he used that to inform his anatomical studies.
Of course. The human body, all those veins and arteries.
Right. Like you can even see it in the Mona Lisa, under her skin.
It all connects. He was brilliant at seeing those connections.
Art, science, not separate for him at all.
Totally integrated, one feeding the other.
So for someone who's looking at a painting, how does this change things?
Knowing how Leonardo approached art.
Yeah. Does it change how you experience it?
For me, it does. It makes you look closer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You appreciate the detail more, the thought behind it.
Yeah.
You start to see the observation, the interpretation.
So it's not just a pretty picture anymore.
It's a window into the artist's mind, their process.
That's so cool. And speaking of the artist, Leonardo was very defensive of painting itself.
Oh, yeah, he had a lot to say about that.
You wouldn't think it, but back then it was seen as kind of lesser
Then what?
than poetry, music.
Yeah.
Those were the liberal arts.
Right. Considered more intellectual, I guess.
Yeah, and he was not happy about it.
He felt painting was getting a bad rap.
He even wrote about painting being expelled from the liberal arts.
Wow, he sounds pretty annoyed.
He was, because he thought painting appealed to our highest sense, sight.
And that it could reproduce all forms of nature.
Right. It engaged multiple senses, not just one.
He was way ahead of his time in some ways.
Absolutely. And he argued that painting could bring the inner world to life.
More so than other art forms.
That's what he thought. And to prove his point, he tells this amazing story
I love a good story. What is it?
about a painting of a dragon.
A dragon. Okay.
But it was so lifelike
Oh.
that it scared a dog.
A dog. Seriously.
Seriously, he uses it to show the power of a visual image.
To evoke an emotion, a reaction.
Exactly. Sometimes more powerful than words,
I can see that. Have you ever had that experience with art?
where it just hits you harder than a description could.
Oh, absolutely. There's something about a visual that just gets to you.
Yeah, and I think that's what Leonardo was getting at. Painting had this unique power
To connect with us on a deeper level.
to move us, to make us think, even to frighten us, like that poor dog.
That's a great point. He really understood the potential of visual art.
Now, as much as he loved art and nature, Leonardo was also pretty critical of humanity.
That's interesting. In what way?
Well, he was really appalled by cruelty, especially toward animals.
You know, that does make sense given his love of nature.
Yeah, but he didn't hold back. He called humans the king of beasts,
Whoa.
but not in a good way. He was condemning our capacity for greed and violence.
That's pretty strong language.
It is. It's like he saw this darkness in us that contrasted with the beauty of nature.
Right, like he was both amazed by the world and disappointed in people.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, are his criticisms still relevant today?
I mean, look around. There's still so much conflict and destruction.
Yeah, it's a good question to think about. And speaking of thinking, let's move on to Leonardo's scientific mind.
Oh, he was so much more than just an artist.
Right. He was fascinated by light, physics.
A true Renaissance man.
He even climbed Monte Rosa, that huge mountain.
Not just for the view, I bet.
No. He was studying atmospheric perspective, how things look different with distance.
Always observing, always learning.
And he was just as rigorous in his scientific pursuits as he was in his art.
Always pushing boundaries, challenging assumptions.
He was a true pioneer, that's for sure.
And his legacy continues to inspire us centuries later.
Absolutely. So let's take a deeper look into some of his scientific discoveries.
Sounds good to me.
It's amazing how much we can learn about a person through their personal writings.
Oh, absolutely. You get a completely different perspective.
It's not just about the finished product, it's the process, the struggles, the insights.
It humanizes them, makes them feel more real.
Exactly. And with Leonardo, you really see this idea of transformation running through his work.
Transformation, huh? In what way?
Well, he saw it everywhere in nature.
Like the changing seasons.
Yeah, or the cycle of life and death, the constant flow of water.
He was very observant of the natural world, that's for sure.
He was, and he has this beautiful analogy comparing time to a river.
Oh, I love his analogies.
I know, right? He says, the water you touch in a river is the last of that which is gone and the first of that which is coming. So it is with time present.
Wow. It really captures that sense of flow, doesn't it?
Yeah, like everything is in flux, always changing.
Makes you think about how we perceive time, doesn't it?
It does. Is it linear or
Right.
more like this constant flow that Leonardo describes?
Where past, present, and future are all connected.
Right. It's a big question and one that's still relevant today.
He also talks about how memory can distort our perception of time.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Like past events can feel recent, and recent events can feel distant.
That's so true. It's almost like he was anticipating modern theories about time.
Yeah, the subjective nature of it all.
And it wasn't just time that fascinated him. He also delved into the body and the soul.
That age-old question.
Right. What is the soul? Is it separate from the body or intertwined with it?
I'm curious to hear what Leonardo had to say about that.
Well, he compares the soul inhabiting the body to the wind that makes an organ sound.
Okay, that's a unique comparison.
He says the body needs to be healthy for the soul to express itself fully.
Like the organ needs working pipes to produce beautiful music.
Exactly. But he also suggests that the soul itself can't be corrupted by the body.
Interesting. So it's like the soul is this pure, eternal thing.
That seems to be his idea, that it transcends physical limitations.
It fits with his fascination with transformation and the mysteries of existence.
And speaking of mysteries, we can't forget Leonardo's obsession with flight.
Oh, yes. The flying machines.
He had notebooks full of designs for wings, contraptions, all sorts of things.
I guess the dream of flight really captured his imagination.
It did. And he didn't just dream about it, he studied it.
Like a true scientist.
He observed birds, their anatomy, their flight patterns.
He was trying to understand the mechanics of it all.
And he essentially laid the groundwork for aerodynamics.
Centuries before airplanes even existed.
Talk about ahead of his time. And even though he never achieved sustained flight,
His insights were incredibly advanced.
they were. His notebooks were like a glimpse into the future of aviation.
It's amazing what he accomplished without access to modern technology.
It is. But it also shows that he was grounded in observation and experimentation.
That was his foundation for both art and science.
But while he was visionary about mechanics and nature,
He was also pretty skeptical of certain things.
like what?
What he called mental sciences.
Oh, like astrology and alchemy.
Right. He felt they lacked that solid foundation and experience.
He always wanted proof, evidence.
He famously said, "Before deducing a general rule from this case, repeat the experiment 2 or 3 times and see if the same results are produced."
It sounds like the scientific method to me.
He was all about testing theories through observation and experimentation.
It's what connected his artistic and scientific pursuits, this rigorous approach to knowledge.
He saw the world as this interconnected web of patterns.
And he believed that we still had so much to learn.
There's that great line, nature is full of infinite reasons which have not yet passed into experience.
It's like he's encouraging us to keep exploring, to never stop asking questions.
And to not be afraid to challenge conventional wisdom.
Exactly. Leonardo was always pushing boundaries in every field he pursued.
Which was a lot of fields.
And he wasn't just about theory, he had practical advice for artists too.
Oh, like what?
Well, he stressed the importance of direct observation, sketching from life.
Capturing the world as you see it.
Right. He wasn't a fan of just copying other artists.
He felt that limited your creativity.
Yeah, he believed true creativity came from engaging with nature itself.
The source of all beauty.
And he also emphasized the importance of solitude and contemplation.
For allowing ideas to emerge.
He even said, if you are alone, you will belong to yourself only.
It's true. Sometimes you need that space to think and create.
But he wasn't a total hermit. He also recognized the value of collaboration and learning from others.
He was constantly seeking out new knowledge, new insights.
His notebooks are filled with lists of books, people, places he wanted to explore.
He was a true lifelong learner, always curious.
And he was incredibly generous in sharing his own knowledge.
Through his drawings, diagrams, observations.
He's left behind an incredible legacy.
A legacy that still inspires us today.
It's amazing how his insights from centuries ago still resonate with us.
He was truly ahead of his time.
So as we continue exploring Leonardo's work,
Let's not just admire it from afar.
let's let it inspire us to be more curious, more observant,
To see the world with fresh eyes.
and to never stop learning and growing.
Because that's what Leonardo was all about.
You know, it's just incredible the scope of Leonardo's curiosity.
Oh, it's mind-boggling. We've barely scratched the surface, I feel like.
Right. We've talked art, science, philosophy.
But there's still more.
There's engineering. His notebooks are full of inventions and designs.
Like
but
those flying machines we mentioned.
oh, way beyond that. Canals, bridges, war machines.
A mechanical knight. Seriously.
Seriously. And it's not all just fantasy.
No, he was solving problems.
Yeah. He was thinking about practicality, improving lives.
Like you could see how things could work better.
And a lot of his designs were so ahead of their time.
Centuries ahead, some of them.
It's wild, like Industrial Revolution stuff or even later.
Makes you wonder, what if he had today's technology?
Right. The possibilities.
Yeah.
But even without that,
He was incredibly ingenious.
pushing the boundaries of what was even conceivable back then,
In doing it all without the scientific knowledge we have now.
relying on his own observations and experiments.
Pure intuition and brilliance.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Leonardo da Vinci,
No, it's hard to believe it's over already.
what are your big takeaways? What stands out to you most?
Honestly, it's just the sheer breadth of his mind.
That interconnectedness we talked about.
Exactly. Art, science, engineering. It was all one to him.
He showed us that creativity doesn't have to fit in a box.
That innovation comes from engaging with the world
Observing closely, experimenting, questioning everything.
and never losing that sense of wonder.
He really embodies that Renaissance spirit.
A thirst for knowledge, pushing the limits of human potential.
And his legacy, it's so powerful.
It inspires us to see the world differently,
To be more curious, more open-minded,
to never stop learning and growing.
just like Leonardo.
And as you go about your day today, remember his words. Nature is full of infinite reasons which have not yet passed into experience.
Let that be our guide, our inspiration.
To explore, to observe, to question.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked your own curiosity. And until next time, keep exploring.